It's another chaotic episode of the Good Girls podcast. I'm SJ here with my co-host Kay, and today we are talking about the train wreck that is the Bachelor franchise and their latest almost Bachelorette. What were they, 5 days from launching? On
3 days.
3 days from launching their new Bachelorette, Taylor Frankie Paul, when the wheels came off. So let's talk about that, Kay. But before we jump in, let's just have a little bit of a reality TV chat. So I know that you're more of a book smut girl, but if you are watching TV smut, what's your show? You got a reality dating show, or are you Real Housewives, Secret Lives
I
of
used
Mormon
to watch
Wives?
The Bachelor and The Bachelorette when I still lived with my parents because my dad is a huge Bachelor fan. He's like, "Why would I not wanna watch 20 beautiful women fighting over one man? Like, of course this is great television for me, and, like, how dare you say that I'm not a straight man because I like this?" So we used to
I
watch it, and
love
that's
that.
why I was so surprised by everything. Because 'cause I'm like, "The Bachelor has always been, like, pretty dirty," you know?
Yeah, no,
Like, I
totally.
I distinctly remember, like, blowjob sounds going on the video and sitting there with my dad like, "I wanna leave the room right now."
I do also that makes me think of bonding with a coworker of mine who was a older guy, and his daughter was a few years younger than me, but kind of similar age, and he watched it with her. That was their bonding exercise because she had come and moved in with them after college or something, and so he would always catch up with me over coffee, and he's like, "Did you see that episode of The Bachelor last night?" And catching up with my, like, 65-year-old coworker was just
Yeah,
precious to do over the latest
he
Bachelor
watches it
scandals.
because, like, his daughter was, and I feel like I more watched it because my dad was actively, watched it. He also loves Pride and Prejudice.
I
Um,
love that for your
so
dad. I would say that my favorite reality dating show is 90 Day Fiancé. Have you watched that one?
I'm
Like
sorry.
many of them, I haven't watched it. I think it's still on. I haven't watched it in more recent years. They're interesting when they first come on, and then they all just become kind of a caricature of themselves because then once people get what the concept is, then they're just getting on that show to get attention. And maybe in the beginning, there's a little bit more of people who are there because of whatever the actual concept of the show is. But that one is just so delightfully unhinged because I feel like the realities of the US green card process are just more, off the rails than any reality show format that a TV executive could come up with. Um, so yeah, that's a great one. Okay. So different question. With your knowledge of the reality dating shows that were out there, if you are rewinding to your single days in your 20s and you could pick one of these shows to get cast on, which one are you going to be cast on?
I mean, it's not a dating show, though, but I would have liked to be on The Amazing Race.
Okay,
Like,
everybody
watch
would
me
want
get,
to be
like,
on
food
Amazing Race,
poisoning. You
Kay.
know,
That's
I
not
can't
an
I can't pick
answer.
Amazing Race. I
No.
don't know. I mean, I guess The Bachelorette, and you just go into it knowing that you're gonna probably get knocked out really soon, and yeah.
See, if I was just making up my own reality, I think I would have gone on The Bachelor as a lesbian because then the odds are really in your favor. And I do remember there was one season back when I used to watch it, who I think her name was Monica or something. Maybe she was just like a little bit bi-curious, but she definitely tried to hook up with one of the other fellow contestants in the hot tub. And the girl was like, "Oh, no, I'm here for The Bachelor." And I was like, honestly, the only smart person on this season is this bi-curious bisexual contestant who is just trying to test the waters if any of the hot female contestants are open because that's just way better odds and more interesting show, which leads me to the fact that the actual best reality dating show was A Shot at Love with Tila Tequila. Well, let's just jump right in with talking about our girl, Taylor Frankie Paul. So, Kay, catch our listeners up real quick if they have just been, living under a rock or just really good at not doom scrolling on social media, which I don't know how you exist like that, but good for you.
So, Taylor Frankie Paul was on The Secret Lives of Mormon Wife The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Wow, I did not realize that is a rhyme until I just said that out loud. So so anyways, during season 1, she had this big incident happened where the video was unearthed just this past week and shared very publicly, where she comes back drunk and she was picked up by her boyfriend who brings her back to the house that she's living in with her children. Not exactly sure on the number of children.
She
But
has
either
3
way,
children.
she is highly violent. But one of the kids is actually with the boyfriend and was born after the 2023 incident with the same boyfriend who she was throwing the metal chairs at. So
Yes.
she
Her
was,
son is her the child from the boyfriend that she had the altercation with.
yes. And there is not enough information out there, I think, to make any claims about what the guy was doing, what was going on the guys. And there are some claims that it's reactive abuse. But what was seen on the video, like, is just cut and dry. Like, there's no there's no
Yeah.
vagueness to it. It was completely wrong. At one point, her 5-year-old old girl is struck by a chair as well, which was by the daughter was not the target of the chair, but still hit, got a goose egg. She when the police were called, she was the one who was taken to the jail, and she was seen as the aggressor and her boyfriend as the victim. Now, what's crazy is that like ABC knew this, right? Like it literally happened when she was on season 1 of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And they still chose her as their bachelorette. And then when the video became released, then that was when they backed off having her. And that's what I just feel very unclear about the Bachelor and Bachelorette and what their overall goals were. Like, if they did just want good television with a person who they already had a history of
Right.
having some pretty hectic things happen, then why not just stick with that? I don't know. Like, I feel very torn about it. Like, domestic abuse and domestic violence is definitely crossing the line, but they already decided that they were crossing that line. That then to go
Yeah.
ahead and film the whole season, that's all the crew's time, that's all these different people's times thinking the show was going to be released, and then 3 days
And just
beforehand,
all the money
pull
that
it.
they sank into it. It's like 5 million per episode licensing fees from Warner Brothers for this or something. So they, sunk something like $70 million into this. So it's just even from a business perspective, doing your due diligence on it, or I guess kind of trying to go out on a limb, doing something a little bit different since viewer interest in the franchise has been dipping. And I mean, also it's
If
just
they
been
were to
going on a
release it, we
long
would all
time.
probably watch it now. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that personally they should air it with a 1-week delay and say that all profits are going to victims of domestic violence or like something like that. I don't like make it
Yeah.
clear like yes, we do not stand by. I just don't know. Like maybe there's they cross the line and that the family genuinely does need time like out of the spotlight to work on themselves. But either way, like the season was already filmed.
Yeah, it's a very difficult. I think with all of the conversation around domestic abuse that is alleged by both sides here, and people are being very quick to jump to conclusions because what you have in the video is the part where she is losing it and throwing this chair and obviously has gotten to a really desperate point. But I think people who haven't been in abuse situations might not recognize that there's also like a lot of familiarity. People said who had been in situations with domestic abuse that the situation rang really true, like the police body cam footage where she appears to be really hysterical and the boyfriend is calm and collected and is like, well, she did this, like, and he had the presence of mind to like record it and stuff. Like, that's a bit chilling in itself and kind of says like if it was just this one-sided thing, I think that he would have also felt emotional. So there was some things that just rings kind of true
But what
about
she
like
did was
abusive behavior from
objectively
men.
wrong.
Oh, yeah,
I
absolutely.
just wanna make sure that's clear because, like, if we saw the same video of a man doing that to a woman, we wouldn't be like, "Oh, well, the woman was very calm when
Was
she
like
was
asking
recording
for it.
it
No, no,
recording
totally.
it."
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's why I
the
just think that my bigger problem is just with these shows at all, or with, Hulu for originally creating this show. I mean, this all was in the first season when this was happening. So they could have easily pulled the plug then because I think that something like this is obviously so complex. And even in a court of law, when they try to have it all come out, it can be very difficult or impossible to say like who's at fault or, assign any kind of blame or try to like pursue some kind of particular outcome. And so I think the fact that Hulu in the very beginning platformed this and, made celebrities, the
well,
whole
that's
genesis of the show was around like all this really chaotic behavior from her. And I mean, they're like, that's good TV. And The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives was a huge hit. So I guess like another question that's coming out these days is like, how much are we, the audience, to blame for watching these types of things?
Well,
Because you're
that's
right, like, if they released if that series of The Bachelorette, people would absolutely watch it. In fact, it probably would boost their ratings because now everybody's talking about this in a way that, like, we wouldn't have talked about The Bachelorette this year
well,
if it weren't for that.
and I think it's just taking it to a different level. I think of, like, stars like Trista and JoJo, and at least for me, at the age that Trista and JoJo were the Bachelorettes, you wanted to be them. You saw
Mhm.
them as really cool, hot girls who had a lot going on. But she already doesn't have like, Taylor Frankie Paul, if anything, has a reputation more as women relate to her in the sense that, well, I'm a mess, and then here's this person, Taylor Frankie Paul, who's totally owning the fact that she's a chaotic mess. That's kind of her brand. It's around being
Yeah.
very genuine about her messiness. Now, granted, a lot of women who related to that, their mess was way, way smaller stuff. It wasn't that they threw a metal chair that also
Well,
hit
it's
their
almost that it
5-year-old
makes you feel
daughter.
better. I feel like for a lot of us, it's less that you're like, "Oh, we're just alike," and more that, yeah, if you were a little bit messy, if you were a little bit chaotic, and then you watch something like Taylor Frankie Paul, that you are like, "Oh, well, I feel better about myself, about after watching
Yeah.
this because she's way messier
Never
than I
threw a
am."
metal chair, but I did one time throw, a bowl of red pasta sauce on the ground. That when I was maybe, like, 6 months pregnant, the hormones all going wild, and I swear that my husband purposely let the red sauce stay on the ceiling for, like, a week longer than he had to, so I felt
Look
the
at what
shame.
you've
Yeah.
done.
I still remember the face afterwards, like, "Whoa, that was actually nuts."
Okay, I do
Yeah.
think that there is special dispensation for pregnant ladies as long as no one got hurt, which no one besides the pasta sauce did. So I give you
The
special
ground and the
dispensation
bowl got
then.
hurt, and then the ceiling with the red sauce, but there was no human victims involved. There was some non-sentient objects.
But let's talk about like what this Bachelor franchise brand is supposed to be because that's another one where it's very interesting. There's some new executives at Disney, I guess, that were heading up this season and probably trying to make a splash doing something new and different. But I think that, they kind of had a particular lane that was more or less working for them. So there were some formats that were just purely like, let's put a bunch of hot people together and some hormones and, swimsuits and see what happens. So you had your like too hot to handle, Temptation Island kind of things in that lane. And then you have ones that are more of these like social experiment type of goals, like Married at First Sight, and they have psychologists involved. Love is Blind is another one, although I think Love is Blind is another example like The Bachelor, where it's like maybe for the first season or two, there were people who were genuinely interested in using that format to find love, and then it's like steadily devolved from there to people just being like, oh, this is a successful reality TV franchise, and people will pay attention to me if I get on this. But the Bachelor franchise always did brand itself as we can get into talking what the reality was, but it branded itself as this fairy tale, people finding their fairy tale. They famously can only talk about the show by referring to it as a journey. And I feel like they really doubled down on their whole cheesiness factor of like we're kind of the true love cheese thing by always trotting out the successful couples and their babies from previous seasons. And then when they
Yeah.
more recently created the Golden Bachelor part of the franchise and years before that, The Bachelor in Paradise. Like if you watch Bachelor in Paradise, it's like Love Island, but with like it's just like way cheesier and campier. And they're just like leaning into kind of the cheesy side of their thing. So to go and choose somebody as your star who is just basically famous for being a soft swinging Mormon, I feel
That's
like that's
I
a
don't hate
departure.
it as a decision, but I think that it is okay to depart from that. I think that there's people who are soft swinging, very interesting people who don't have, counts of domestic violence on their
Fair.
history that they also could have been directed to. Like, I think that they ideally they would have been like, "Oh, Taylor Frankie Paul would be a good idea, but this is probably like a little." I don't know. I think it's
I
again,
guess it's
I still
also
think that
just
I think that they should have aired the season. I do. Like, I think that I wouldn't have thought any differently of ABC. I still don't look for, like, Hulu and ABC as my, like, gold standard for how to
right,
behave
and,
as a
like, these
person.
shows aren't my moral compass, nor am I getting any input about, what I'm seeking in a relationship
If
from
you
them.
were ever seen using The Bachelorette as your compass, like, that you were always led astray. I don't know what to tell you.
Exactly. I mean, and yeah, that's what we can talk now about how they definitely set it up as this fairy tale thing, and they're always, kind of judging like this person's here for the right reasons, this person's not here for the right reasons. But let's be honest, especially in the last several seasons, everybody's reasons for being on this show really just come down to launching their social media influencer D-list celebrity career. And the
Yeah,
authenticity,
for
if there
some
ever was any, wore off
entertainment,
after a few seasons.
you might wanna look at the guy who apparently won the Taylor Frankie Paul Bachelorette, who then realized that he'll never get his real chance to shine, so has instead been sharing on, Instagram and Twitter and such his singing videos, and it is like somebody making a parody of what a Bachelor like,
This
singing
is
video should. So, yes, this is
They've all
absolutely a
just become
thing.
a parody of themselves. So did they release him from his NDA already? Or he's just decided to go rogue? Because I feel like
I don't
that to
know
me says
exactly
that
who
they're
was
not
released
gonna.
from their NDA, but there was definitely enough information to make it clear that he was going to be the winner.
Well,
I just don't know who was the releaser,
that's the real tragedy here, Kay, is this
because now the TV show's already
earnest,
busted
young,
for us.
wannabe influencer is now stuck just making videos and never really getting his true claim
I
to
watched
fame.
that video and I did not feel bad for him. I was like, "Okay, maybe we were spared." I don't even feel bad for I don't feel bad for necessarily any individual person involved. I just think that that's, like, a lot of work to do and then not release the season.
You
It's
were
like, stick
just
with your
denied a
guns.
really
You were
chaotic season of reality TV, which, let's be honest, none of us is watching it for, authentic relationships developing. We are just watching it for the chaos. I think maybe the thing that bothers me more is I feel like it's lazy to pick somebody who's this isn't Dancing with the Stars. Like, Dancing with the Stars is like, okay, you were already D-list famous from some other thing. But, like, the fact that, the Bachelor universe got so incestuous over the years, and some stuff came out kind of how, like, people who were on seasons were already new people on the show and stuff like that. And then that they're
Hasn't every single Bachelorette always been in, like, the past like, one
yeah.
of the losers in the past Bachelor? Like, they never wanted to take a risk on a woman who they hadn't already vetted in front of the audience, and they knew that the audience was
But I
interested
mean,
in.
I kinda get that because it was always, like, the person that you thought, I mean, assuming they could get that person to agree to a contract for the season, it was always one of the people that you watched the show, and of course, they edit it to have you feel this way, but that you were like, "Oh, that person got denied their chance at finding their fairy tale happy ever after," and so you wanna see that on the next season. So that is kind of part of their brand. And it does give you so that you're not just having some random person thrown on there. But I feel like it's a bit lazy to recycle a star from some other reality show. Um, yeah, it's just especially because then I feel like the types of people who would be interested in her, like, knowing her personality on The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is like, yeah, I'm not surprised that we're not impressed by this guy that she would have picked out of the bunch because it seems like she has terrible taste in most things, including significant
I like it
others.
that the two guys were both at the courthouse on the same day to apply for a restraining order from her this past week. Ugh.
So the guy that
Hate it
won
when
the
your exes run
season
in with each other. No, not the guy who won the season, the
or
person who
her
was
both
the
of her
boyfriend
exes.
2023 and the original
Yeah,
Tate and Dakota.
yeah,
I now
yeah.
know so much about this woman and her history.
I know, I did start watching I watched the first episode because I had never gotten around to watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and then it felt like one of those ones that it was just a cultural moment that I had missed, and so I needed to dedicate my energy. You can only stay on top of so many reality TV franchises. So yeah, I did go back and watch the first episode, which is just so interesting to start that show knowing how things end up with her, but she just does come across from the beginning as very, like, attention seeking, I'm just doing things for the shock value. Also, I'm confused, and I don't know if you keep watching the show about the soft swinging part because the other Mormon moms on the show are confused about what soft swinging means, and I don't know if that gets defined if you keep watching the show. They seem to think it's like they're swinging and they're in front of their significant others and they're just not having penetrative sex like P and V. But they seemed unclear about that.
So, soft winging is the custom of engaging in sexual activities with your partner in the same room as another couple, but not swapping or sharing partners. So, I
The
have a
Mormon
lot
wives
of
did not Google that.
interest. Yes, they could have just looked it up. I really that's interesting. I wonder what that does for people. That's really impressive.
That's
Like, I
a
wonder if these people have kids or not, because that means that you're not just timing out, like, your sexual arousal and interest, you're also timing it out with another couple now.
It seems like they have a lot of readily available childcare is my other conclusion because they're all Mormon, so I think they live in Mormon Central in Utah, and they have family around because
What's
in the
going
beginning
on
of the
with
episode.
Utah? Like, are they okay? I
What is
don't
going on with the Mormons?
know.
So my
They're
other
such
thing
a
that I was
beautiful
confused about
place,
by
like, they
watching
should
only
be.
one episode of the show, and I feel like probably this doesn't get resolved to my satisfaction either, because some of the other women on the show are like, "Oh, we're not about the swinging aspect of it. We can't believe this is what got Mom Talk all this attention because we were just here to like challenge the patriarchy from where we're sitting." And I was like, "What about making videos of yourselves dancing and promoting your like hair care
That's what
studio?"
you all were doing, was challenging the patriarchy?
I know.
Like, I
I
didn't get
wanted
that
to be like,
message. I watched a
maybe
lot of them.
go read some bell hooks or something. I don't know.
No. See, the more I hear about Taylor Frankie Paul, unfortunately, the more I am interested in watching a reality TV show that features her. So maybe it worked, and maybe the exec was on the right thing. But again, like it's the domestic violence. I think that that's just like a line that people don't want to cross. Um,
Yeah, and I feel conflicted. Kinda like one of those things like shopping at Amazon. On the whole, as a society, it's bad that we do that, and if we all stopped it's like game theory, right? Like, if
but
we all
because
stopped
the other
shopping at
person's not
Amazon,
stopping, yeah.
that'd be game over. But yeah, it's like prisoner's dilemma. So then it's like, well, if I'm the only one who stops shopping at Amazon, then I don't get to take advantage of the fact that I can like order, this thing that my kid needs for school the night before and it'll show up tomorrow morning. But everybody else does. And I'm over here, just trying to figure out other things. And I kind of feel like that about the reality show is like you're not really proving anything by sitting that one out. But at the same time, it is still bad because if we would all not watch things like that and platform people who are just basically making a living off of, doing things that are like theoretically to offend people or just people who are like really chaotic and probably like the last thing that she needs is fame and the last thing her whole powder keg of relationship situations need is for like the videos of it to be released publicly
That's
on
the one
YouTube.
argument, yes, that I see, like, in favor of them not releasing it and trying to put down her fame,
Mhm.
but I can tell you that if that didn't all happen, I probably would pay way a less less attention to like, if ABC hadn't canceled the season, I feel like there would have been less conversation about her, but maybe I'm totally wrong. So I see
Yeah.
like the Liz Plank piece reference on being a snapshot of how messed up the world is, that Taylor Frankie Paul is getting more consequences than anybody in the Epstein files. And I know like this is like, I still don't know if that's fair, and the reason why is because it's a video, and it's a video that has violence, including that a five-year-old was hit by it, and I think that for, like, any male included, if
Mhm.
there was a video shared where a person was getting hurt and a child was also getting hurt and involved, like, it's the I think it's the video evidence because obviously that was always on her record. Everybody knew that that was on her record, but the video wasn't out, and so they didn't have an image of what actually went down.
Yeah.
You can argue the other side, it's fine.
I was just gonna look. Who was the athlete who
Many
had
athletes have
the
hurt their
video?
wives and
Um,
children.
he didn't really get many consequences, right? The athlete who had the video with him, like as like a hotel Ray Rice.
Okay, but you're saying that really, when the video of Ray Rice was released, where he knocked his fiancée unconscious in the elevator, he was released by the Baltimore Ravens, and he was suspended indefinitely by the NFL.
But, like, for
And it was
assault, when they have you on video, I mean, I'm saying there's, like, a similar level of thing if you have a video evidence of somebody, like, physically assault I mean, I guess in her case, like, she hasn't not yet, like, done, like, jail time for this yet. So, like, okay, maybe that's fair. Like, in both cases, they had career implications for it.
he was charged, career ended, and then there was a policy shift where there is now a 6-game suspension for a first domestic violence offense. So maybe the Bachelor and Bachelorette need a clear policy on your first domestic
They need a
violence events,
six-episode suspension.
a 6 episode suspense, yes, or a change in contract. So, hopefully, it's not that common and they avoid it in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, and it is interesting. I mean,
Interesting.
but I do think you're right about the video evidence being the thing that really prompted them to have to take some action because there's been some other issues around like I'm thinking of the one where she had like they unearthed some older posts where she had made racist comments and things. And it was like they kind of didn't really do anything about that until there was a public outcry. And then they made a thing the next season of like trotting out their on show DEI consultant to show that they were doing something about the situation, but it wasn't like they canceled her or anything.
The on-site DEI consultant was probably shaking their head big time, like, "Ugh."
I know she's like, "How has my career come to
Now you
this?"
guys decide you care. Yeah, so, I'd wanna call out a few Bachelor and Bachelorette scenes from the past that show that shady behavior has always been a part of the Bachelor.
Mm.
And in a personal favorite, in 2018, John Blanc gifted Becca, the Bachelorette, a custom fragrance that was called the Miss Becca Blanc. He was a cologne sir, whatever that means, we're not sure. He also told her that he was falling in love with her in week 4. When she sent him home, he asked for the perfume back, and he said that he didn't love her. It's like,
I
what
did
are you
not
gonna
watch
do
that
with your
season.
perfume that was named Miss Becca Blanc? There was also a lot of sexy scenes. Like, if you're into softcore porn, you can look up The Bachelor and Bachelorette 'cause those videographers are doing, like, the work of God. I mean, they're, like, getting in there on, like, the hands and the knees, and there's a lot of, like, against wall hookups. A lot of fodder for people who
Yes.
read romance and are trying to get images in their mind about what different hookups look like.
Yes, especially that and Bachelor in Paradise because I think then it's a bit more of a free for all and they take a lot of liberties with the aspect that it's kind of like when they're in rooms together, then they don't always have like a camera in there, especially in the fantasy suites in Bachelor and Bachelorette, but they'll still have hot mics on them at some point. So then they do the thing where they're like zooming out from the
Yes,
fantasy suite
yes, it
and you
was
just
the
hear
hot
the
mic that I
sexy
had to listen to
noises.
with my father next to me, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, she's totally going down on him now," and I was like, I need to leave the room, like,
What
please don't
an
narrate it for
educational
me."
experience for you about your dad's interests.
Well, I don't know if he wasn't saying that he was interested, he was more just like, "I can't believe that she's doing that when there's 4 other guys still involved." It was more, the entertainment value.
I mean, he was still watching, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, we're all still watching.
Exactly.
So
And that
yeah.
is the moral of the story is that we are here judging it, yet we all you and I watched multiple seasons, your dad watched multiple seasons. I might watch a few more episodes of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives now because I am very intrigued, if for no other reason than from a research perspective to understand exactly how they are challenging the patriarchy.
That might be a whole separate episode is watching the real lives of Mormon wives.
Especially in
I've read
retrospect
that so many times, I've never noticed that it rhymes before.
well, especially in retrospect now that we know that its star was just truly a unhinged person, um, for whatever reason, and not speculating too much about, how much of that was caused by the influence of abusive men in her life or how she responded to it. The moral of that being that maybe fame was not the healthiest thing in the world for this woman and her poor children. But
Oh my
yet here we
gosh.
are watching it and discussing it.
And
So
discussing it.
are we part
So
of the
just
problem?
consider
Maybe.
airing it, ABC. I'll be part of the
Did I
problem.
try to give up
No.
Amazon, but then I had to get something really quick before I leave for spring break travel this week? Also, yes. So, nobody's perfect.
Sometimes I don't compost. Even when I'm in people's houses that have compost bins, I just hide it underneath the paper towels. So,
Well, that's
anyways, which are
devious.
also compostable.
That's not just laziness. That is specifically hiding the evidence of your
It's things where
indiscretion.
I'm not exactly sure if they should be composted or not, so I would have to ask my parents. But anyways, it was great chatting about The Bachelorette with you.
It was great
I will
confessing our
still
sins
watch it.
together
Using Amazon and not being a consistent composter. Well,
and maybe
uh,
occasionally watching some really problematic TV shows. I don't know. I might go do that now.
I watch and read a lot of problematic stuff. It's just not mostly in reality TV, but I can bend down there. I just need to get Hulu back. Well, thank you for listening. Good night, everybody. Oh, not good night.
Whatever time of day it is for you.